Wes Ulmer with SD Tech. This is Shane. We've been using Arsenal for about 27 months now, and we've been very happy with the results. Justin has managed to get us quite a few clients, and it's helped us really grow in the right direction. So we first heard about Arsenal when Justin called. It was funny. He called several times, and initially, I didn't know who you guys were, and didn't pay much mind to the phone call. But he was very persistent, which is a good characteristic to have when the sales rep is calling for you on your behalf. So he was very persistent. I decided to take his call one time and had a discussion with him, set up an appointment. We had actually used several other companies previously that I was not very happy with, so I was a little reluctant at first, but I took Justin's call, talked with him, and set up an appointment with Aaron. And after talking with Aaron, we decided to give it a go. I think one of the main things that made me be willing to actually move forward was the fact that there was a no commitment. It's a month to month. A lot of these other companies lock you in to, you have to do a minimum 2-year commitment or something to that effect. But we as a company don't believe in locking our clients into a commitment, because we believe that by giving good service to the clients, that's how we keep the clientele. And since Arsenal had those same type of values, that's why we went ahead and went with them.
Yeah, so I'd say that so far the partnership has been fantastic. We've been working with Justin the entire time that we've been with Arsenal, and Justin has really grown with us. He's learned our products, he's learned how to better offer and support our clients, and recently we've landed one of our top 5 biggest clients, and that came directly from Arsenal and Justin, so I'd say it's been going well.
So, typically Justin will make calls on our behalf based on a list that they collect. And as he works through that list, he's able to kind of narrow it down to companies that have interest or that are coming up with a renewal fairly soon. And then we start those discussions at the appropriate amount of time before the renewal, hoping to get some interest from them. Once he gets an appointment set up, then he sets the appointment for us. We reach out to the client on the assigned appointment date, have a conversation with them, and kind of gauge their interest and see if it looks like it's a good opportunity, is it something that the client's looking to move on, when the renewal is, all those kinds of things. Then we just kind of go from there.
I would say absolutely not. Cold calling can't be dead. If we have seen a successful sales life cycle go, and sometimes it takes quite a while. I think the most recent client we've been working on for 2+ years, but that started with cold calling. And then from there, it's building up the relationship with the potential client. And yeah, there's absolutely not. It's not dead.
We've got a really good working relationship with Justin. We've been working with him for quite a long time. That large client that we just closed on, he's been working that lead for, I guess, almost 2 years now at this point. We just closed on them last month. So, sometimes with managed services and larger clients like that, the sales cycle can be fairly long. But the beauty is Justin takes the lead on following up, and he has that persistence to make sure that we see it through to completion. And at the end, either we win the client or we don't. And we did in this case.
One of the things I'd like to add with the relationship between us and Arsenal, for me, one of the selling points with Arsenal was having the direct contact and ability to be working with a salesperson who was dedicated to our business, and then provide that coaching. And so since I'm the one that's responsible for the majority of the coaching in our business, knowing that I would have that same type of relationship has been really good. I don't know if it's common for Arsenal to have a salesperson that works with a company for the amount of time that we have with Justin, but we've never had to work with somebody else, and it's allowed for us to really grow together, learn each other. And I was mentioning earlier today that Wes gets irritated with people. He's not always the easiest to please, and over the course of 2 years, I've heard minor gripes about working with Justin, and he's provided that feedback, and then Justin has been able to say, hey, that's something I'll work on, and then we see the improvement. And I think that's extremely important. That's how you build a good relationship.
Yep. I enjoy the fact that you guys act as like an actual direct extension of SD Tech, so it's not like it doesn't appear like a third party, to the client or whoever you're calling, the KDM, and that goes a long way. It's a cohesiveness and a singular entity, not like, oh, hey, this guy is a dude that works for some other random third party, kind of thing. So happy with it. Yeah, so I liked the way that Justin approached calling us. I liked his demeanor when he was on the phone. I liked the questions he asked. I like how he proceeded forward with setting the appointment. So then after talking with Aaron and deciding, you know what, we'll give this a try. And basically Arsenal has a checkout process where you select your rep, and there's a video that each rep creates. And so I was like, this is an interesting concept. I like this. And so each rep kind of speaks about, who they are, what they're about, that sort of thing. And when I went down to Justin's, the interaction I had already had with him and the way he presented himself, I was like, this is the guy for us right here. I think he'll fit in great. So we went ahead and did the checkout process, and that's how we got Justin. So the partnership with Arsenal has been fantastic. Like I mentioned earlier, we'd worked with several other outside sales companies that would like to think they're similar to Arsenal. A lot of those, like I mentioned earlier too, have contracts, so minimum commitments. So they wow you out of the gate, they get you on board. Once you're on board, then it's kind of lackluster. But of course, you're stuck with it through the contract period. The beauty with working with Arsenal is, when you have an issue, you can talk with your sales rep, you can talk with Aaron, the issue gets resolved, and they're incentivized to do that too, because of course each month you get to decide whether you come back or not, and so that's a big deal. You keep the client happy, the client keeps coming back, and so that's I think a core value of not only our business, but that's kind of where we aligned with Arsenal is a lot on those core values. So keep the client happy, client keeps coming back, and like I said, we've been with Arsenal over 2 years and have no plans on leaving anytime soon.
So we go through and we look at our list of vendors and decide, whether or not do we need to be looking at other competition? Do we want to potentially scout for somebody else to replace a number of vendors? And in the two and a half years, we have never discussed going with a different company. Arsenal has been fantastic for us, and Justin's been fantastic for us. So I think that speaks quite a bit. It also takes that element off of our plate. It's not something we have to revisit on a regular basis saying, okay, so where are we at? Do we need to renegotiate? Do we need to look at competition? It allows us to focus on the other pieces of our job.
Sounds kind of silly, but I don't really have a whole lot of things that I would say that need to be added. The process that you guys go through, however that looks on your end, because of course we're not intimately involved in the beginning stages of the conversations. You guys have your process and procedure on how often you call, what scripts you guys use when you call, all those kinds of things. So the beauty of it is it's pretty much on autopilot for the most part, which is important, especially when I'm the go-to once Justin nails down an appointment. So I can't be doing all this back and forth. I need to have Justin take it to the 10-yard line, say, hey, here's the KDM, here's all their contact information, here's the appointment, call them on this date at this time, and they're interested in X, Y, and Z. So he collects a lot of the information up front. We're able to decipher, does this look like a good lead, is this not a good lead, and then it makes it really easy for us to take it from there. So everything just works well. I don't know that I have any.
So I don't shy from giving feedback. You would think that after 2 years, I would be able to come up with a pretty decent list of things that could help improve Arsenal. and I fall short in this category. You guys are awesome to work with. Justin's been awesome to work with. We've had, great success, and I wouldn't change anything.
Well, we've seen a lot of good results. It was Justin was kind of dealt a rough hand at the beginning because when he started calling for us, he was not probably 3 or 4 months in before COVID hit full force and everything shut down. So, when everything shut down, a lot of companies were not making any IT decisions. They'd rather stick with who they had, even if those people were not good, instead of switching to something new that was an unknown, because there were so many other unknowns at that point in time. So he had kind of a rough go of it at the beginning, but he did get us quite a few appointments. And even though some of these people weren't ready to move forward, it's all about setting up that pipeline. And so as we get farther and farther along in the process, that pipeline continues to fill up. And even if people aren't ready to move forward right away, there's still a potential down the road. So that large client we just recently closed on, Justin, I think he made the first dial to them back in either January or February of 2020, and we just signed and sealed that one like a month and a half ago. So, some of those larger accounts can take some time, but you just got to stick with it. You got to be persistent, and Justin had that persistence to continue to call and keep that communication fresh with the potential client and help us see it through to the finish line. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so outside of the more recent larger client that Justin landed for us, Justin and Arsenal have set us up with numerous appointments that have resulted in new clientele for us. And then even I like to focus on the ones that don't become clients because they're equally important. If they never become a client of ours, then Justin and Arsenal are the only representation of SD Tech. And so if they're not going to work with us, how they go back and what they're left with as their interaction with SD Tech is going to be what they remember. And if somebody else comes and speaks to them and they are looking for a change in IT and our name comes up, then that's really important to me as well. And I don't think we've never had a single complaint about our salesperson, and I can't say the same for other companies that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Salespeople typically generate a lot of issues, a lot of promises or overcommitments that don't end up being lived up to, and we've never experienced that, and that's a big win for us.
Yep. It's we've had such great success that since we're in the process of franchising SD Tech right now, we'd like to use Arsenal going forward with some of those franchisees. So it's been so successful for us that it's likely to be successful for our franchisees as well. It was pretty exciting. The first appointment, it was like, this is finally paying off. This is moving in the direction that we need it to. I see Arsenal as an investment. Of course, you want to get a return on your investment. So once those appointments start getting set, you start meeting with people, you start closing deals, that's where the payoff comes. And not just for us, but one of the things I like too about Arsenal, and we were first talking about using them in the beginning, is the option to go either the revenue sharing route or a fixed cost every month. And I thought about it a little bit, and I came to the determination that the revenue share for us was a better option due to the fact that I felt it incentivized the rep. So they've got skin in the game. If they close deals and help us get to the finish line, then they're going to benefit from that as well, versus just doing a straight salary, the fixed cost every month. Then there's not as much of an incentive. Obviously, they want to keep us around. We have monthly calls. They gauge, how satisfied we are and things of that nature. But I think it just adds an extra level of incentive to the sales rep when you do the revenue sharing.
It also meant that the first meeting that was set up was more exciting for everybody involved, because since we all did have skin in the game, then when that first one came to the table, I remember Justin was excited, Wes was excited, I was excited. I don't remember if the client was excited. I don't remember who the client was then, but I do remember that we were like, okay, so this has a lot of potential, and it felt good.
Yep.
So Arsenal versus new hire. So I'm the one that handles the majority of our hiring and training, and Wes previously mentioned that we are franchising, and for our franchisees, we want Arsenal to be built into our model. I think that should answer that question. We do not believe that the investment from sourcing your own salesperson, managing your own salesperson, following through on everything from ground up, I don't think that an individual is going to see the return on investment as quick as working with Arsenal for a ton of reasons. But unless you are already sales-centric with your background and you have the availability to do the hiring of your own person, Arsenal has been fantastic, and we have it worked into our model. So,
yep. And I think as an extension of that, part of our franchise model is providing the franchisee with a help desk, if you will. So the franchisee can go out there and earn business and not have to worry about supporting that business because we support it in-house. So same kind of deal where, our expertise is finding good technicians, our expertise is hiring those good technicians, training them, making sure they understand the hardware stack, the software stack, all of that kind of stuff to effectively run a help desk. The franchisee may not have experience in that area, so the same way that we're doing that for the franchisee, Arsenal does that on the sales side of things. So Arsenal is experienced in hiring salespeople, they're experienced in training salespeople, and as a result, you get a better return on investment than if you were to go out and try to source your own salesperson. Currently, right now, in recurring revenue from the leads that Justin has worked and helped us close, it's about $15K in recurring revenue. And my main goal out of the gate, just going back to ROI, like any business, you want to make sure to cover your costs. So the primary concern, when I hired Arsenal on, is to make sure that we had at least that cost covered. And if we could get that cost covered, everything else above that is just gravy. So,
yeah, I'd say we're doing pretty good. It definitely have lived up to our expectations and assisted us in meeting our goals.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was the first deal that we closed with you guys was kind of funny. We somehow I think Justin had called them. They passed Justin's contact information along they have a VCIO, so that guy kind of helps them make some high-level technology decisions like, hey, if you guys are going to switch MSPs, what MSP should you go with in the future, that sort of thing. So passed Justin's information along. That guy, the VCIO, then went to our website and sent us some like a request for contact. I ended up calling them, and then I think we had a partner meeting like a couple days later, and Justin was like, hey, I talked with ECS. They said they're interested in going with us, and I was like, that's weird. Yeah, I talked with Mike, and then we kind of put all the pieces together and found out that it kind of, not the normal process that it would go through, but it ended up, the initial conversation that he had ended up leading to us getting that deal. And so when we ended up closing, it was very exciting because it was like, okay, this is becoming real. This is a direct result of using Justin and Arsenal to do sales calls for us, and now it's benefiting us. Of course, that didn't cover the initial monthly cost, so of course we want to keep doing it, want to keep growing that. And as Justin became more and more comfortable, we started getting more and more appointments and starting to grow that. And I think, I'm glad that we got Omega, actually the new client we just closed, when we did, because I think had we gotten it sooner when Justin originally made the call, we wouldn't have been ready for it. Now we're ready for it, and we're very excited to have it. Do you agree with that?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I would like to speak to this first. So Wes will chime in with what his piece is, but he was very excited about our most recent closing, and it is one of our top 5 largest clients that SD Tech has, and that client came from Justin and Arsenal's hard work. Getting that client for us secured the recurring revenue for SD Tech to be able to hire out 2 more individuals that we had been scouting for a while. And so it really put us in position to make some of the moves that we've been wanting to make that is going to, just help the cycle of Justin and Arsenal going out and getting us new clients and us being ready to support them. Meanwhile, it's assisting SD Tech in growing out our footprint within our own city and bringing more value to our community, and that wouldn't happen without the success that we've seen between our partnerships. So it was fantastic. Wes is, what he sees through that is quite a bit different than what I see through it, but
yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, being able to hire on those additional technicians, that puts us in a better position to bring on franchisees. So it's all kind of a symbiotic relationship, and everyone wins. We're closing deals that Justin's sending us. We're able to grow. Then we're able to grow. We're able to better service our existing clients, and then in turn be able to service any future franchisees we have. So I think on top of that too, it adds additional weight when recommending to our franchisees that they use Arsenal for sales. We can point to specific examples and say, hey, we used Arsenal and this is what they brought us. So I think it's not only good for us, for our bottom line, it's good for our growth. It's good to point to examples when franchisees ask, well, why am I going to spend this money every month? Well, you're going to spend this money every month because these are potential results. Everything's going to be a little bit different in different markets and stuff like that. But the fact that there's that opportunity there, and you can put some of the other companies that I worked with before, it's very hands-on. There's a lot of things that you as the client would have to do. But the beauty with Arsenal is just, like I said, it's on autopilot. They gather that list. You go through the list, scratch off anybody you don't want them calling, and then they just go to work. And when they have somebody that's interested, they let you know, they set the appointment, and then you call them, and then hopefully you win the deal.
Yes. We've continued our partnership for over 2 years now. I'd say that it's absolutely worth the cost. Understanding that for the sales cycle in our industry and in the technology industry, it can be longer than a normal sales cycle. And so I think it's important that on our side we understand that, but it's equally important, if not more important, that Justin and Arsenal understands that, because that can be extremely discouraging when you're out there and you're making these cold calls and you're trying to build relationships and you have people that you've been working with for 2 years before you finally land a deal that independent deal covers 2 years. So it's stressful. It can be stressful, but having a solid partnership where both sides of the table understand what's going on has been very successful, and at no point have we ever doubted the success we would have, and that is specifically because of how Arsenal and Justin speak to what's going on in the sales cycle and where we're at and what we're doing. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too is the monthly meetings. The monthly meetings go a long way to kind of recenter. We have a couple other, like our accountant, they do monthly meetings, and I think it's important because it brings the two of you together to make sure you're on the same page, that you know what goals are set, how we're going to move forward, what we're currently working on, what's in the pipeline, what future opportunities there are, all that kind of stuff. But having that monthly meeting, it's just kind of a reminder of because if Justin and Arsenal are doing their job, they're kind of in the background, just kind of working all those different opportunities. You're not necessarily going to hear from them every single day. You're not going to be, Justin's not going to be calling, every other day, hey, how's it going? Or I did this or did that. He's going to fill you in when you need to be filled in. But having those partner meetings is critical, because then hey, this is what I've been working on all month. This is what's coming up next month. This is what's, maybe he talked with somebody and they're 6 months out from making a move and making a new decision. So just it's helpful to have those monthly conversations, and it helps kind of renew that partnership every month and remind us why we're doing this. So yeah, it was kind of like I mentioned earlier, we started out with Arsenal maybe a couple months before COVID started. So just as we were starting to get some meetings and appointments and that sort of thing, most of the initial ones were set up in person, and then COVID started and everything abruptly shifted to to either phone calls or some kind of virtual meeting like Teams or something. But it was different at first, but I think the video calls are a little more helpful because you can kind of gauge people's responses to questions and answers and things like that a little bit better than you can on the phone. It just feels a little more personal. The other side benefit to that too is it saved a lot of drive time. Honestly, it really did. I wasn't disappointed, although I do enjoy meeting with clients face to face. It typically that got reserved kind of towards the end because so many offices were shut down or limited staff or people being out sick and all that sort of stuff. So there were still some in-person meetings, but not as frequently, and a lot of times it would be reserved for like the third or fourth meeting when they were actually getting closer to closing. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the expectation varies from time to time based on what's in the pipeline. So, there's times where, Justin could have 2 or 3 opportunities for us that may not be immediate opportunities, but are still calls scheduled. There was an engineering firm that we spoke with that's fairly large, and they were interested in doing something, but they were 6 months to a year out from the end of their current MSP contract. So there's not some of these other companies that we worked with before, they would set minimums, like minimum appointments per month. And on the surface, that sounds like a good deal, but in practice, when you're forcing the rep to deliver a certain amount of appointments, you can imagine how sometimes reps might kind of force an appointment when there's really not a conversation to be had, and then it's just an awkward phone call or an awkward face-to-face meeting. So we're not so focused on the quantity as much as the quality. So something like Omega Air that took about 2 years to close, that's a much better opportunity, even though it took much longer. That client's likely going to be with us for a very extended amount of time, and so even though it took so long to close, it's well worth the time and all the effort on our part and Justin's part as well to get to that finish line. And it helps too when you close big deals like that to be able to point to examples of other clients when you go to bring them on. They say, hey, what other large clients do you have? If you're bringing on another 50-person office or 100-person office, you can say, oh, we have X, Y, and Z example. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's specific expectations as much as just continued leads and working through that process.
So aside from that, I do have some expectations that have developed through this process. Because of the way specifically Justin, this as an extension of Arsenal, but specifically Justin has, he's been very dependable. When he sets up a call, I know that he is going to remind Wes and myself that the call is coming up. He's going to remind us of the details regarding the client, and then he checks in very frequently to make sure that we are on top of it. Not just because it's important to him, but because he knows that we are running a business and that we have a lot of things going on, and that as important as that call might be, sometimes things come up. And so it's really nice having an extension of ST Tech that is going to be there for us and hold us accountable just as much as we're going to hold them accountable. And It's just helped build that partnership more and more. And anytime that somebody asks me how many employees ST Tech has, Justin is a part of that count, because he will get after us. And that's a great expectation to have. Having a team that holds everybody accountable regardless of your position is extremely important. So it's fantastic.
How long did it take to start seeing results? Well, that's I don't know. That's a difficult one.
It's a trick question because it depends on what you define results as. If you define results as a signed contract with a new client, that took a little bit of time. But if you look at results as, to us, the way you should be looking at results when working with a company like Arsenal and an individual like Justin, we started seeing quality meetings with potential new clients within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It was very quick, and although those initial clients didn't pan out right away, I saw Justin following up with them on a regular basis, and then we knew what was going on. We had a couple of potential new clients, a dealership for one, where there was follow through on it over and over and over again. And to me, that's high quality results, because every one of those meetings where Justin and Arsenal are taking care of those, that's potentially going to lead to revenue down the road. And in the meantime, that's that relationship building with the client is happening, and it's not happening by either of us, which frees us
Right.
up to do other things. And so it was very quick.
Yeah, 100%.
In the upcoming pipeline, Justin helped remind us that we have a couple of clients that may pan out within the next 3 to 6 months, and if 5 or 6 of those come to fruition, then they're not going to be as large as the client that we just landed, but it's still going to equate to about another $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and probably about $50,000 to $75,000 in project revenue. So it's going to be a one-time sum. But our partnership, I know it's 2 years in, but it feels like it just began.
The company that we had used previously, nothing like Arsenal in experience, results, process, procedure, none of that stuff. They required, it was either a 1 or 2 year contract. Wasn't real happy about that. It's difficult for me to commit to a contract with somebody that I don't have any previous working relationship with. I don't know what kind of results we're going to see. And that was a big turn on when we talked to Arsenal, is the fact that there was no contract. It's month to month. You get to decide whether you come back each month. Big deal. That other company also promised a minimum number of appointments. On the surface, that sounds good. In reality, it's not, because when it comes towards the end of the month and they haven't met those goals, then they're trying to force additional appointments, calling contacts over and over and over again, trying to corner them into committing to be on the phone. And a lot of those calls or those meetings were either canceled or the client didn't show up. So I have to say, hands down, like the way that Arsenal conducts business is far better than the competition.
We have seen far less wasted time and far less wasted resources, and I don't have to worry about whether or not our sales force is potentially impacting our brand in a negative way. That's a massive weight off my shoulders.
We're definitely revenue share. I looked at the options, and over the long term, if we closed a bunch of big deals, it would cost less to do the flat rate. But the flip side of it is I felt that doing the revenue share helped incentivize the sales rep to make more calls, to get us more deals, to own the opportunities more than they would if it was a flat rate. So yeah, definitely the right choice for us was revenue share.
I agree. Knowing that in our industry that the sales cycle can be longer than in other industries, we felt that was pretty important, and it helps make sure that we have a motivated individual who's being the initial contacts for these types of clients.
Wow, what does the future look like? That's a complicated answer. So future looks extremely bright. We're definitely going to continue to use Arsenal to help grow our brand. In addition, we're going to want to use Arsenal to help grow our franchisees' business once we start onboarding them. And I think, the beauty of being able to recommend Arsenal is having had the experience of working with Arsenal. So it's a lot different when you've never worked with somebody. You can't really effectively recommend somebody else use them, but the fact that we've been using Arsenal for an extended period of time and we've seen results, so we know what the results look like, and we know what the experience is like, so it's very easy to then recommend that to our franchisees. We've had a couple phone calls with a few referrals, and to getting a chance to speak with them about what our experience has been with Arsenal. and it's been a fantastic experience. We've, again, we were reluctant at first because of the bad experience we'd had with some of the competitors, but I'm glad that I answered Justin's phone call. I'm glad I gave him a chance. I'm glad I talked with Aaron, and we're seeing and enjoying the results of that, for sure.
What are my final thoughts? I don't know right now, because I don't feel like anything in our relationship is anywhere near a place of finality. We're just getting started. I'm really excited having the opportunity to come out here and meet the team, and speak to each other regarding the successes that we've shared over the last couple of years has been fantastic. I'm really looking forward to the next time we do this video and we're talking about how our franchise has grown out and it's led to just an even better partnership between us. This is gonna, I expect that we'll be doing a couple more of these over the next 10 years. So.
Agreed.
Cool. So I'll start. I don't have a whole lot to say. My involvement with Justin is pretty straightforward. For me, Justin is a part of our team. When somebody's asking me, hey Shane, how many employees does SD Tech have? I never remember off the top of my head. It's really bad, especially because there's not even that many of us. But I always list everybody off, and your name is one of the ones I list off. Like you're a part of the team. You're just a part of the team that we don't get to see very often. Yeah. But we talk to you on a regular basis. A couple meetings a week, whether it be a quick follow up on an email or, you're following up to be like, hey, have you talked to these? How did it go? It's great. You're there for us.
Yeah, he's an integral part of the process. So, we don't have a whole lot of other sales, marketing type efforts out there. You guys are one of the primary ones. And so, in order for us to grow, your efforts have to be successful. So we're all one team is how I see it.
Yep.
The initial call, when I got the call back from the prospect saying, hey, Justin, I know you've been bothering me. We did, initially he told me back in, I think it was July of 2021, that they're going to go through an RFP process in September, follow up with me in September. So I called him every single day in September, never called me back, never talked to him. I called him up until the end of the first week of October, said, okay, nothing's happening here. Followed up with him January, left about 3 voicemails then. And then finally, March of this year, he called me back because I pushed him out till April, give him 3 months. He knows who I am. He has some of our stuff from the first meeting a year before then. I don't need to keep bothering this guy. He's going to think I'm a pain in the ass. So I'm going to give it a couple months. Instead, a month before I was supposed to call him, he called me back to say, hey, our little consultant dude we're working with is not panning out. We're not happy with it. We have all your guys' info and your proposal from a long time ago. Is this still good? So when I got that call, that initially told me I did my job correctly. He knows exactly who we are, what we're doing. He knows my name. He knows my number. He's calling me back on the numbers we already sent over. That call right there took a bunch of weight off my shoulders. And then also I was able to show other guys, just look at this notes. Look at the notes. I've made a good 40 dials on this guy, even though the typical recommended is 8, then you suspend them. But this was a hot lead that we needed. I knew he needed something from us. So when I got that initial call back, that's when I got rejoiced. And then the consistent time, Wes was talking to him. Wes would let me know the actual price points, what they actually need, all the ins and outs. They're having a bunch of problems. They need all this licensing. They need all that. When I started hearing those questions, I was like, this guy's locked. This is amazing to hear.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we had actually gone out and done a face-to-face prior to him calling you back.
Yeah.
So it's all that groundwork that we laid prior to that call to you. Yeah, it just speaks volumes to the process, and that stuff takes time. So,
How did you actually react when you found out for sure that the contract was locked in?
Oh, I lost my mind. Yeah. I looked at Aaron and I go, big deal, and Aaron's like, whoa, what are you talking about, man? I go, Wes, just close. I don't know the final number, but it's like 12 to like 13, 14, and I don't know. If the guy goes with the silver package, it's still going to be over 10,000. So this is huge, but he ends up going with the gold package, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like 12 and a half, 13. This is amazing. And Aaron's just talking to me like, Justin, dude, that's awesome. That is sweet. How long you been working on that? And I showed Aaron the whole thing, and he's like, this is a model that new guys need to know, because you will get crapped on your first 3 months. Even show like that record alone has given me the ability to talk to other clients and show them my process, guys. My other ones I'm working with now, being like, hey, I'm having these good conversations. You need to look at stuff like this, because the small ones will trickle through. We might get some low-hanging fruit, but the big ones, that giant orange at the top of the tree, it's getting all the sunlight, you're gonna have to take some time in to get it. Yep. So when we finally were able to reach it and pull it down, it was like, look what I finally have. Yeah. I'm never letting go of this. Yeah. So it was unbelievable feeling.
It's the same thing for us. So our big client that we talk about anytime somebody asks us about our sales process is Massage Heights. And that, I'm sure you've heard him tell the story about how it started off with just 5 phones, and it was this, it was nothing more than a dream, and his partners at the time didn't want to spend the money up front. But dude, that relationship has been ongoing, and we nurtured it for 13 years before it went from being the first franchise location that we were working with to where we were actually working with corporate and then working from the top down. 13 years. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to hear that it takes that long to land what you're actually going after, but sometimes it does.
I mean, and even to extend that a little bit further, you talk about one of our other large clients, Keller Williams. We've been wanting to grow within that organization for years, and having that consistency and showing those, we started with one of the locations in San Antonio, and then showing them how consistent we could be over an extended period of time. Didn't work for them for like 20 years. And that finally panned out into getting into the other location in San Antonio. And then that got us into Corpus Christi.
And now it's actually moving.
Yeah.
And that's actually moving.
It takes time.
Yeah. We got our first one in Houston now.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So that's, yeah.
It's just laying that groundwork that if you know your work is good, when you're laying that foundation, there's gonna be a good house built. Yep. So it was just get like the feeling of having that close just makes me hungry for more.
Dude, that's
100%.
That's what I like about you.
Yep.
That's knowing that you don't get discouraged through that process is so important.
I have, being that pipeline is so built out now, I've had to pull other lists. I've started putting my own records in there. I'm now at that point where I have so many lead no interest that I see all of them as potential deals, from the 10-person shop to the 150, 200, 300 plus I have in there. I'm like, I don't expect this to hit this next time I call them. They keep telling me they're happy, but I know eventually something's going to happen like Bob, where I'm going to get a call back, and if I keep being consistent with them, they'll know me, they'll be consistent with me. And I've talked to other guys about how they approach their lead no interests, and they've told me just to spark a joke with them to make me be like, yeah, hey, Rebecca, I'm calling you again. Just calling back about the IT, seeing what's up. I know I doubt I'm going to get a meeting. Just want to make sure that nothing's falling apart. Yep. Stuff like that. And it gets you kind of engraved in their brain when they hear it once every 3 months. When you're listening to a voicemail once every quarter that's consistent, you've talked with me before. It wonders. It's just wonders.
And our competition isn't us. So at some point they are going to falter. And when they do, they will remember you. You're a very memorable person. And because you're not being too much and because you're not being too little, they're going to reach back out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, typically I have Justin continuing to follow up on the leads if there's no interest initially. We try to, because you guys are the experts when it comes to the sales process, we try to offload that and make it an automated process as much as possible. So since you have the systems in place, you have the process and procedure, call, record that information, interest, no interest, that kind of thing. It's just easier to have you guys continue to follow up with them until there's actually some interest.
I just got to witness him telling somebody else the reason I trust you in following through on this sales process is because you have demonstrated that you have the tools, the processes, the resources to go through with it. I want a copy of this recording so that I can show it to him later and be like, this is what we need to do with other things.
Yes.
It can be done. And then he'll go, as long as you find me people like Justin, I'll do it. And It's fantastic.
It's nice. Every time after the meeting happens or I set something up, I always make sure I contact with, hey, how'd that meeting go? Is it proposal worthy? When are you sending it out? I'm going to follow up 2 days after you send it out. After I see that email come through, I'm going to follow up 2 days out, make sure they had it, make sure they had a chance to review it, make sure they had a chance to get it to the correct people if there's more to that decision than just the person we spoke with. And it's nice. I mean, it's pretty much seamlessly at this point. It feels like we have a process. After every meeting, we talk, we see what's happening. I text them. I'll figure out what's going on, what about the meeting was good. Sometimes I'll even let them know, be like, hey, this was an email meeting. I didn't get everything. I want to use this as kind of an experiment. So I know next time I do try to pull something on this route, I know where I should sharpen up some spots or maybe some spots where I should loosen up. Maybe I don't need to send them 4 emails about trying to get every piece of information. Maybe you could pull it when you're on that meeting. It'd be just a higher likeliness of them actually being on that meeting, liking the meeting, wanting to explore more talking to you. If it's one of the situations where it goes complete opposite, let me know to where what falls apart, what I can do better to make that next meeting just more sticky, more glue to it, more likely to, at the end of the day, just close and make more money.
We don't give a proposal on every appointment. The ones that are actually interested in potentially moving forward on services, we'll definitely put together a proposal on that. And even some of those don't actually move forward, but just having it there, like the one we put together for Bob, that probably sat there for a year or more before we looked at that again. Bob called Justin and showed interest, and it just took those couple of things to put him over the edge to where he was like, man, I'm done with this guy. I want to look at SD Tech again. And thankfully Justin was there and he answered the phone and took that call and got that help kind of spur along that interest. And next thing you know, we're doing another face-to-face. We're refreshing the proposal, make sure everyone's on the same page. And about 4 or 5 months later, it closes.
Yeah.
So
about 5 months of back and forth conversation, email, call, extra meetings, what they need when it comes to all the specific licensings. Once we finally got everything hammered down, it was just what package they want to pick, and they're like, we're just done dealing with someone that's not going to give me the level that we need. We're finally getting back in the air. COVID's finally getting a little less strict. We need to ramp our business back up. Yep. And we can't do that with this one guy that's not reliable, falling apart. He doesn't know everything. Maybe this whole RFP we were trying to go through shouldn't have been a real idea. Maybe we should have actually realistically budgeted out for an actual IT company.
Our industry it's bland. The dealing with IT, the technologies, the majority of our language goes over most people's heads, and you'll notice that everything Justin has spoke to about clients that currently have somebody managing their IT and are now interested in switching to SD Tech, how often is it because of price?
A lot of it is because of price. Majority of the time it's price. People don't understand what the true value of IT is, and trying to explain it over a phone call is hard, but when they finally realize our IT's falling apart, we can't get a hold of our guys, our response windows are super high. Sometimes it could be just as simple as a password reset problem that I haven't been able to get a hold of a tech in 45 minutes. I don't have access to my email. That happens more than enough. It starts the snowball effect.
The price is usually a big point, but the relationship aspect of it, how prompt is communication good? Is it 2 ways? IT crowd is just known for being basement dwellers, and we try really hard to break that mold. Justin assists us with that greatly. The proposals come in at the appropriate time, and that part I don't think really is a nailed down process. Part of that is felt out between the parties involved, and when it's right, and it's delivered, and those proposals never really look the same. In Bob's case, where he had that proposal early and then he came back around to it, Bob happens to be one of the people who actually understands our language and was really looking at that. ECS, totally opposite.
Really?
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like they're a heavily relationship-driven client, and the way you spoke with them early on, and even though it was a weird thing, it's because you delivered a memorable individual to them.
Yep. I mean, look at the experience with Bob. I mean, Bob called you back, not me. Bob was comfortable dealing with you. You were responsive. Whenever he would reach out, you would answer and things like that. I mean, all of that, the entire experience he had through the sales process. What honestly, I don't think he even looked at any other companies.
I don't think he did either, to be honest with you. Because he consistently heard me. Even Mark at the dealership, every time I call him, he goes, "It's you. What's up? You pain in my ass." Like, the guy just now messes with me. Yeah. So, because he knows, like, it's genuine. Yeah, it's nothing coming from a place of me just trying to oversell him. I'm just more or less checking back in. We want to have another conversation. We also just know that it's time. The time is what matters. But I'm here to call you and remind you that we're still here. We're still ready to do it whenever that time truly rolls around for you. So I had one guy, I think it was for you, that it was a no interest from March. I haven't been able to get a hold of him since. I called him last week, and he goes, "Justin, you need to stop doing cold calling. I remember your voice from 7 months ago. You need to get in the radio game." And I'm like, "I'm just here to build a relationship, man." He goes, "Well, you built it, because if I ever have a problem, I'm going with you guys." That's fantastic. It's just that consistency that people aren't used to when it comes to a cold caller.
Yeah, so many other IT companies, it's just lackluster support. You know, they get the client in the door, they get him to sign a contract, and next thing you know, you can't get hold of them.
Wes, how many salespeople do you talk to that we're not currently doing business with?
I don't know.
How many of the salespeople do you return their phone calls to if we're not doing business with?
I don't.
Yeah,
There's a handful even last week that I can think of that.
Yeah, I get spammed with different companies.
Absolutely.
I've missed you a dozen times, and I'm trying to just get this pushed up in your inbox. Or, "Oh, hey Shane, you remember when we met somewhere?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know who you are, and I'd appreciate if you stop calling me. I don't want to talk to you." But the fact that you have so many of our potentials that are like, "Oh, hey Justin, it's good to hear from you again," and they're staying in contact with you. We don't do that, so that you're doing something phenomenal, clearly.
Yep.
It's been awesome. The communication's always there. I like the fact that when I first started with you guys, I was very skeptical on how well I would be in sales. I went to college for sales. I was in a bunch of sales classes. I traveled a little bit doing those classes, and I never thought it would actually be true to how sales was, and it wasn't. The sales classes taught me the second I hear any sort of no, we pivot, and so our goal is to get the yes. In IT sales, you're not going to get a yes all the time. You're not going to get in cold calling, you're not going to get a yes 99% of the time. You're going to, for the most part, get hung up on. You have some people that are cuss you out, do all this, but if you're consistent with it, you'll get there. And that one appointment off the one out of the 100 people, 99 people could literally yell at me all day, but when that one person says yes, I erase them all. And then just having the communication with you guys, we're always on the same page. We know what's out there. We know where we need to follow up. I know when exactly you send something out, because I'm always CC'd on stuff. I know exactly when to follow back up on it. I know the exact numbers. I can read through the proposals. I can talk to them on basic questions they have with it. And if it goes super in depth, then I know they're buying, and I know Wes can have a better conversation with them. Then we set up number 2. It's starting from a very novice place. I feel super entangled with you guys now, and it feels great to have just the success, but what led to the success, all the stuff that finally trickled through. So it's been awesome. It's been a great learning experience, and I'm excited for it to keep going, because I can see so much more happening just with a computer I have upstairs and what I have in there.
Yeah, you feel like an integrated part of the team. So it feels like a very natural process, and including you on the emails, and there's no point in time in which we feel like you're an outside third party. It's
not at all.
Yeah.
Today, one of the coolest things hearing today is how you are taking your key learnings from your experience working with us and sharing those with the other individuals working alongside you. That's really important to me, because we're growing out our business, and part of growing out our business includes using Arsenal to support our franchisees. And I know that the guy who's been taking care of us is teaching these other individuals how to be better prepared to assist us in the future too.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
And I gotta give you guys a lot of credit for staying around for so long too. It's like IT sales is not an easy thing. It's not flashy. It's not sexy.
Nope.
It's a pain. And when we're finally getting to that point where everything's opening back up, nothing's really locked up anymore, maybe besides California, but we're seeing the things from the first couple months finally come back through to where now they're back into the office. They can't be dealing with this one-man band anymore. They know who we are. They're coming back to us, and we're seeing just things trickle to that finish line through that true process of how cold calling, how this just phone call sales are. And finally getting that yes, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, that's what all the hard work was for. Now let's go and close this up.
It really is. It helps
Yeah.
everyone grow. So
It's fun. And then the younger guys, the Bob record alone has been a testament to you might not see something in the first couple months, but if you stick this out long enough and you work hard enough and you bust your ass hard enough, you can see this finally hit, because eventually something's going to happen and they're going to call you back. If you can get someone to call you back on a big deal like that, you are doing something correct.